Hey guys, welcome to Mrs. G's Sewing Space. I know you can't see me, I'm not as close as I normally am to my camera, but I wanted to show off my hoodie here. So this hoodie is a hoodie that I had that was normally or originally pull over your head hoodie, but I added a zipper to the front of it. See right here. Zip, 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 zip. I added a zipper all by myself. So this video is about showing you how to install a zipper. We're putting it in the same way as a centered zipper, and let's get to the video. So this is the hoodie that I want to add a zipper to, and I'm not sure where I got the zipper from. I'm sure I got it at Joann's or Hobby Lobby or something like that. So there you can see the zipper. You see the coils. The coils are much thicker. They're a lot more sturdier. It's the zipper pull looks about the same. It's just a little bigger than what you would see in a dress zipper or other zippers that we use on a regular basis. And this is meant for outdoors, for the coats and whatever. And it's also a separating zipper, meaning that if I pulled it all the way apart, it would come out into two pieces. And I'm going to use this to put on to my hoodie. The first thing I'm going to do is to set my zipper aside, and I'm going to look at my hoodie. So I picked this up at Walmart. I had run to Walmart for some reason and I got cold. So I just went ahead and bought a cheap old men's hoodie here at the store because it was in one of these colors. I like this color, which is why I got it. So I picked it up and it mostly fits. It's a little large around the shoulders and the arms, but it gets tight right here. Not too tight, but tight enough. I could still wear it and be comfortable in it, but I'm not trying to squeeze it around my mom's belly. But we're going to look at this and figure out where we want to put the zipper. Now on this particular hoodie, I'm just going to go ahead and put it right smack in the middle. But if you want to put it in another place, for example, if you didn't want the hoodie straight in the middle, you could put it here on the side, or just like over here from the side somewhere, or just wherever you wanted to put it. But as beginners, you guys are just starting out, so we're going to just do it smack in the middle. So what I'm doing is I'm straightening it out, and as you can see, it's a product that's been made in China, so it's not perfect. So my seams aren't completely lined up, things are slightly shifted, and you just got to deal with what you got. So I'm laying it flat. I'm matching it up here by the armpits, by the seams here. There are no side seams right here. So this right here, no side seams, just like how t-shirts are usually made. There's no side seams right there. To figure out where in the middle I'm going to place the zipper, and it may or may not be off. This isn't going to be precise by any means. I'm going to fold my shirt in half so that the outside fold is here on the outside like this. I'll line it up the best I can, flattening everything out, getting the hoodie out of the way, lining up my shoulders. See, I have one shoulder that's slightly longer than the other shoulder, as you can see here. This one's just like maybe a ½ inch longer than the other side. Line up my armholes here to the best. And now I did some embroidery on the back, so it's a little bumpy right here, but that's okay. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to use my chalk right down the center here. At least this way it gives me an idea of where the center is. And as I unfold it, I can see where I've marked. And that should be my center line right here. This way I'm going to actually use my ruler and make a straight seam. Now when you look here at the top, like I said, made in China, so it's not perfect by any means, where my line goes here and it meets the hoodie right here. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do with this area here before I sew the zipper on, and before I cut anything either. So we're not going to cut anything yet, but I am going to still mark the middle, and then we're going to figure out what to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this, and if I'm happy with this placement right here, I'll go ahead and make a mark. But if I am not, and I want to double check, maybe I want to measure from here to this side and see what measurement we have, and from here to this side to see what measurement we have, and if they're not the same, if I want to equal them out, I could go ahead and do that now, and then straighten out my line. But I'm okay with this right as it is. Like I said, the whole thing's crooked. I got one shoulder that's longer than the other shoulder. The seams are all slightly off, so I'm not that worried about being as precise as possible. As long as I got my middle line right here I can go by, I'm good. Now, also looking at this shirt, you can see that there's a kangaroo pocket here. And because of this kangaroo pocket here, I want to make sure that everything stays together. So before I cut the fabric, I'm going to thread a needle and thread, and I'm going to baste right along this side right here so that these pockets, these layers will stay together as I am sewing. So I'm going to do that right now. So now I've basted the kangaroo pouch so that the two layers will be together, and we are going to treat both the layers of the shirt and the kangaroo pocket itself as just one layer. So we're not going to do anything to separate those as we're installing the zipper. So as we get here to the top, and I'm looking here at the hoodie, here at the top is what I've got to think about next. So what I think I'm going to do is, because I'm cutting it right here, and you can see the overlap right here is by this much, like a ½ inch, or maybe just about an inch, or 3/4 of an inch, I'll say. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim about, so I'll probably just trim to this part right here. That way I have room to maneuver when I'm sewing in my zipper, but then I can also sew everything back together when I'm done. So I'm going to like to right here and right here. So I'm going to unpick the stitching here and separate the hood from the main shirt in these 2 points right here. That way I can cut through the fabric, install my zipper, and then I can go back and reattach the fabric here. The only problem with that is, you see this? This has been serged or cover stitched or whatever, so I have virtually no seam allowances right here, and that's the only problem with that. So I've got to figure out a way to deal with that, because I'm not sure how I want to handle the hood part. Because what I could do, I could just take the edges once it's unpicked and fold it to like that, and then just have that hood part right there. It doesn't have to be overlapped like that. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants. I haven't decided what I want to do about that. I will unpick it so that way I don't have to cut through everything, and we'll just see what decisions I get to when I get to that point. Let's install the zipper first and see what I can do after that point. Now that I've got my hood picked from where my zipper is going to go, I'm going to go ahead and cut the fabric. Now we're going to sew our zipper on like a centered zipper. So I'm going to cut my fabric here, and then I'm going to flip it inside out so I can re-sew it. We're going to baste it back together here so that we can apply our zipper. That way we can make sure everything's even on both sides. I'm not going to separate the zipper to sew them on. We're going to sew it on with the zipper still zipped together. Alright, so let's take these scissors. These are my favorite because they're spring loaded. See how you squeeze them and boing, boing. So it's better for your hand fatigue. You won't get as much hand fatigue. So I'm going to cut straight up the middle on my chalk line, and I'm not going to cut the thread that I have holding my pouch together, my kangaroo pouch. And you don't have to worry about fraying. This is sweatshirt material. It's a knit. It's not going to fray. Just make sure you don't cut through the bottom layer. Now, because we're going to treat this as a centered zipper, which is what this is, we are going to now put our right sides together. So our arms are going to be tucked to the inside. We're going to put our right sides together here, just like this, matching up our bottom here where we just cut. So I've now pinned everything together, right sides together. I lined up my bottom, the seam to the bottom of the pouch, the seam at the top of the pouch, and the top of the hoodie. And now I'm going to do probably a 1/2 inch stitch, a basting stitch. So it's going to be my longest stitch on my sewing machine. It's 5.0, and I'm going to stitch right along here. And then, okay, I got started without hitting the record button. So what I did is I started at the top over here. Thankfully I've only taken a couple of stitches, and I'm up just doing the basting, a 1/2 inch all the way down. We're making sure to remove my pins as I hit them. Now that I've come up to my pouch, because it's a thicker, the layers are thicker, we are going to do the best that we can to get everything in. And so if we have to push the fabric into the teeth, that's okay. Just don't push too much. You want to go with the flow of the machine. Alright, so this is, you know what, let's flip these arms out so they won't be in the way. Because this shirt is as big as it is, it'll make it a little easier sewing the zipper in. But you also need to beware that when the final sewing gets done and we're going to sew the zipper down, there are going to be 4 layers of fabric here where the pouch is. And so you're going to need to be careful and pay attention to sewing through that many layers of fabric. Some machines have no problem sewing through all those layers. Other machines have problems. So depending on how your sewing machine is, you could expect problems. But I'm going to pay attention and be careful anyways, especially here at the seam. There's going to be more than 4 layers on each side here because of the layers that are involved here. And like this one, if you look at it right here, if you look at that right there, you'll see you have your top layer that was turned in to be sewn down. So that's 1, 2, 3 on top of another 2 layers. So that's going to be 5 layers right there. So if you don't think your machine can handle it, you know, you may want to practice test on something else first. But now that I've got this done, finger press our seam allowance open, and we're going to place our zipper down. So just like a centered zipper, we're going to place our zipper face down against the seam allowance, and we're going to start here at the bottom. And I'm going to line up the bottom of the zipper tape. Remember, this is what the bottom of the zipper tape looks like, so I'm okay with that, just kind of like poking out the edge. And I'm going to line it up with the bottom, and I'm going to pin on each side of the seam allowance so that we can baste it in. Okay, here we go. So I've got all the zipper pinned up against the seam allowance and the seam allowance only, and we're going to go in and we're going to baste the zipper to just the seam allowance, and we're going to do it on both sides, and then we're going to flip it inside out and sew the top down. Okay, so I'm going to go do that right now. So here we go. Everything's been basted in. Now the basting doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't matter because it's on the seam allowances and nobody's going to see it anyways. Now what we're going to do, we're going to flip the doodly dad here. We're going to flip it inside out. And what we're going to do here on the outside, just like a regular center zipper, we're going to stitch along the seam line right here. Wherever it is I start from, I'm going to back stitch and make sure that the stitches are secure. And I'm going to just stitch up on either side of the seam right here. If you want it to look nice, if you want your stitching to look nice, you need to sew with this part on top. You want your front top thread to go in and out because that'll give you nice stitching. If you're worried about hitting the zipper, making sure you get the zipper, you can sew it this way and just sew through, making sure you sew through the zipper and the shirt. But your bobbin thread will be here on top, and it may not look as nice. That's why when you have top stitching, the top stitching is because you're using the top thread. Because this sweater is pretty much all crooked and wonky anyways, I don't particularly care. You know what? I'm going to do one side of each so that way you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to sew one side on the top using regular top thread. I'm not changing my thread. It's just the position of the fabric on the sewing machine. So on the sewing machine, I will sew it where this side is up and the zipper foot will be coming down the seam line right here. And then I'm going to do the other side where I'm going to do it inside out. And I'm going to sew through all the fabric right here beside the zipper. So that way we can see the differences between each side. So anyways, I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. So now that I'm going to stitch this, I'm going to change my stitch length back to my normal stitch length, and it's going to be 2.8. That's how I normally do it. And for this side, I'm going to go ahead and sew on top. So my top thread is going to be black, and I'm going to start here at the bottom. So I'm going to keep it zipped up, and thankfully everything's big enough where I can fit the entire sweatshirt through my machine without it'll be crunchy. We'll have some crunchiness or you know, we'll have to finagle the fabric. We can get it done this way. So I'm going to lie in right here. And I'm going to stretch my stretch right like this. I'm going to stretch it so that you want to stretch it here as you're sewing here. And I'm going to make sure my top thread and, ooh, my knuckles got caught. My top thread and my bobbin thread is pulled to the side because I'm going to need those. Trim this up so that they're out of the way. Make sure the bottom, I'm going to make sure that the bottom half of my sweater here, the part that might get caught up in the sewing, that it's pushed out of the way. And I'm going to, as I sew, I'm going to make sure that there's no other fabric falling or slipping in underneath the zipper foot. Okay. Right here. I'm going to take a stitch. I'm going to back stitch like one or two. There you go. Needle down, and I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to stretch this out like that. Okay, so there we go. Now we have one side done. That was the top side, so you can see the stitching there, and we'll compare it to the other side in just a minute. So now I'm going to flip this inside out and do the exact same thing, except that we're going to do with the zipper down so you can see how both sides look. Okay, I'm going to make sure my top and my bobbin's pulled to the back here. And I'm going to lay it down the exact same way. And I'm going to do it again. Okay, and there's the back side. So let's go throw it on the table and let's see how it looks. Okay, so here it is. Here's the zipper. So let's flip this inside out. I'm gonna move those pins. I put those pins there to keep the hood out of the way. And let's flip it inside out. Let's see what the front looks like. All right. So the stitching doesn't look too bad. I mean, I'm not straight by any means, but that's okay. So we can now pull the basting out here, the purple thread that I had there that was holding my pouches together. I can pull that out if it wants to come, or I'll just, you know what, I'll just snip it because I don't have the hand strength to do that anyways. Okay, I'm going to trim up down here at the bottom, and now that we see everything, I'm like, I definitely could improve my stitching. It could be much straighter. This is the side that I sewed with the zipper with this side facing up. This is the side I sewed with the zipper facing up. So this is inside out. And honestly, it doesn't look too different. If I had a matching color instead of black and white, you would hardly be able to tell. So now I'm going to pick out that basting. So I'm going to take my picker here. I'm going to start here at the bottom, and I'm just going to undo all that basting that we did. And if you notice, I'm using the picker, the ball is going to go in the bottom. So I want my sharp pointy point above the fabric, so that way I won't go through and make a hole. There we go. Alright, so let's pick all this out. Put that away. So we have all this thread I got to pick out now. Now that I've unpicked the basting here, you can see my zippers popping through. I unpicked the basting. Let's see how it looks. So everything looks cool and nifty. I now have a separated front for my hoodie, which is cool. I still have my pockets here, which is awesome. And this particular one has a pocket where you can put your phone and then you can run your headphones through it, which is kind of cool. I like that detail. But we still have to figure out what to do here with the hood. And it makes it a little easier now that we can separate the front. Actually, I'm going to separate the front anyways right here and figure out what to do. I'm going to, from the front, I'm going to align the sewn edges here together, and I'm going to wrap this part around the zipper. So it's like one big sandwich. It's a U shape, that end of the hoodie that goes around. And I'm going to stitch right across here. And then when the hoodie gets pulled up, like this, it'll look like this, and the zipper, the top of the zipper will be covered in the hoodie. It's going to look a little awkward right here because it doesn't look the same, but I'm okay with that. I'm not going to cut this off. I am going to trim the threads off of it though. I'm not going to trim this off just in case one day I may want to come in and pick the zipper out and use it for something else. So I'm just going to fold it over just like that. And then as I sew everything together, it'll be stitched down. And I'm just going to leave it as it is. Ooh, right there. Not even in camera, just like that. So I'm just going to stitch right across here. Do the same thing here on this side. And then I'll be all done. Yay! Yay! Jazz hands. Oh, so happy. All right, let me go get that done. Okay, so here we go on the hood. I finally got the parts all done up. I'm trimming threads right now. I still got a bunch of thread to pull off. Okay, so we're going to talk about this side real quick. So this is the side that had the extra bit that was hanging off from earlier. And so what I ended up doing, so here's the zipper. I ended up taking the piece and then just wrapping it around the zipper and sewing it that way. So I wrapped it around the zipper, and then I sewed from that end. I avoided the stopper too. You need to make sure you avoid the stopper, otherwise you'll break your needle. I avoided the stopper and I sewed in kind of a V shape or dart shape so that here would end up merging into the normal seam. So both sides, so that's like 1, 2, 3 layers of fabric right here. And then when you pull it up, you can see the top of the zipper right here. And the zipper tab is hidden here on the inside where I'm not going to see it or feel it. And that takes care of that part right there. It does look kind of funky because you got a funky little V shape, little dart shape right here, but I don't care about that. So on this side I had to do something a little different. This side of the hood didn't have as much extra fabric that I needed to worry about. So what I did for this one, I just went ahead and sewed it back together also in a V shape so that it would come down at the top of the stopper and then merge into the seam. And then I had seam allowance left over. Normally I would fold this over to cover up the top of the seam, but I had my zipper stop that I needed to worry about. So I just went ahead and folded it up and sewed it flat so that it would lay flat facing upward. And I just sewed a seam to hold it in place right here. Just a reminder, as you are thinking about doing a hoodie on your own, is that when you install a zipper, the circumference of the hoodie shrinks by like an inch. So you need to make sure you keep that in mind. So you need to have a hoodie that's big enough around your belly, or that you're comfortable with around your belly, to lose an inch when you install your zipper. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm just going to sit here and pick out threads. So what do you guys think? Did you guys understand what I was trying to do as I put the zipper in? I always ask these questions because I'm hoping that you guys will give me feedback. Share your thoughts and your feelings and questions and anything down below, downstairs in the comment box. I really enjoyed putting the zipper in this hoodie. I've been meaning to do it for a while, and sometimes you just get tired of having a hoodie that comes up and over your head all the time, especially when you're situated, like you're in the car and you get hot and you take your coat off, but you can't because you have a seatbelt on. Super simple, just unzip it and slide it off. Or if you're at the grocery store, you can't stand in the middle of the grocery store trying to pull your hoodie off and having everything come up with it. Now you have a zipper you can put in front of your favorite hoodie. The only thing about this hoodie is that you need to be aware of, however big your hoodie fits around your body, it's going to be an inch less after you put the zipper in. The circumference of the hoodie is going to end up shrinking by an inch, so you need to be aware of that. So if you have a hoodie that's a little big around your tummy and your hip area, and you take an inch in, it's okay. But if you have a tight hoodie that's already tight and you want to add a zipper, it's going to be more tight after that point. Something to be aware of. I hope you enjoyed the video. Throw a comment down below. Tell me what you think. If you have something that you want to see, throw it down below too. The whole zipper series was suggested by a subscriber, which I appreciate. Remember, the supply list is linked below. So if you see anything that I'm using in my videos and you're like, I wonder where I can get one of those at, it's usually listed below. If it's not, throw a comment down there and let me see if I can find it for you. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos, and I will see you in the next one. This is also my practice hoodie, because when I first got my embroidery machine, I was practicing some of the embroideries, and so now I can open it up and I have a whole lot more space to practice embroideries. So if you ever see me in this in other videos, I might have more little patches of designs and things just for practice, because I think they're cute and cool and